Welcome everyone to The Matrix, Conversations and Transformations. This is a seminar series from the Department of Critical Theory and Social Justice at Occidental College. I am Professor Caroline Heldman. I'm the chair of the department, and I am joined by my co-organizer of the series, Professor Malik Moazzam Dolat, and Professor Mary Christianakis is also a co-founder who's not with us today. Let me tell you first a little bit about the series. So this is a series focusing on current pressing events, and the goal of the series is to connect our community with experts and scholars and artists and the most effective activists. You can register for all of our upcoming events on our YouTube channel. You can also watch videos of past events. Everything can be found at oxy.edu/matrix. And please note that we are using the webinar format. That means that you can submit your questions at any time during the Q&A via the button at the bottom of the screen. If you want to put questions in the queue as we're going along, that works great too. So we'll get to them about midway through the program. So let me tell you about our featured speaker and interviewee today. In the last in our Black Women in Hollywood series, the penultimate speaker, D'Angela Proctor is the current CEO of Wayfarer Entertainment. So she's the big boss. She describes her title as Chief Elevation Officer. So we'll ask her about that. Reflecting her passion for both scaling companies to have a global impact and for storytelling that moves audiences to engage in positive social change. Proctor is a multifaceted C-suite executive who has successfully straddled the creative and business sides of the entertainment industry. She began her career as an attorney, and then she went on to serve as a consultant for Ava DuVernay's Array Filmworks to service its exclusive television pact with Warner Brothers TV. And after that, she was recruited to be in a strategic leadership role for Lionsgate's Codeblack films. So she's been in many different studios. She's been in many aspects of the industry. Before entering the media industry, though, she practiced labor and employment defense law at Reed, Smith, Shaw, and McClay in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where she litigated cases for clients in the banking, public utilities, and corporate sectors. Proctor earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in political science from Spelman College and a JD and a Master's of Science degree in leadership from Duquesne University. So welcome, D'Angela. We are so happy you are with us today. Can we just jump right into questions?
Absolutely.
Let's just do this. So first I want to know about what is a Chief Elevation Officer and what does that role mean, and why is it important to have that label in terms of what you're doing in the industry?
Yeah, sure. So I thank you for having me. First off, I really appreciate the opportunity to always talk about leadership and being a Black woman in the entertainment business. I always welcome that opportunity. So I believe that as a leader, our responsibility and our job is to make sure that the people that we lead actually have the tools to be extremely successful. So I don't think that I think that once you work at a company, I don't believe that everybody needs to be micromanaged. I believe that people need to be inspired and they need to be led and they need to be listened to. So what I like to do is to elevate everything that they're already doing, as opposed to being an executive, if you will, on top of everything that they do. Most people succeed when they're supported. And I believe that that's my position at Wayfair, is to make sure that the people are elevated, our projects are elevated, our clients are elevated, our mission is elevated. So that's why I go by Chief Elevation Officer.
I love it. Can you talk a bit more? So I happen to know more about your background and what you have done to mentor women of color, especially Black women in Hollywood. And other marginalized folks who normally don't get their stories told.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk to us about the importance of that in terms of working in positions of power on what some folks might call the inside, right, in terms of social justice? What does that look like, and what efforts have you led to make sure that more marginalized voices are able to have their stories told?
I I actually don't implement a process or systems or anything like that because I just am. And it goes hand in hand with elevation, right? So everything that I do goes um, comes from the lens of to do unto others as I would have them do unto me. So I would expect opportunities to come about by virtue of my track record, by virtue of the things that been able to accomplish in my career. And I'd like to provide others with the same opportunities or better. And so I believe that in intention, and I believe that what gets measured gets done. So I think that if you are always setting your intention to include people, and you actually have you look back and you make sure that you have elevated and executed on the things that you intended to, I think that's the way to go. I don't think I don't think everything has to be by numbers. I need a percentage of this or I need a percentage of that. I think that people should have the intention of fairness and of giving people opportunities, and that's what I tend to do.
Mm, thank you. Um, you've been in a lot of different positions in the industry, right? You've worn a lot of different hats. From your various vantage points, what would you say are the biggest challenges facing Black women creatives and executives in Hollywood?
Sure. So I'll kind of go back through a lot of stuff fell off that resume. So I'll kind of go back from the start. You know, you mentioned that I was an attorney. I was a miserable attorney. So I call myself a recovering attorney now. And it just didn't feed my creative soul. So after I practiced law for a number of years, I started a production company called Strange Fruit Films out of Atlanta. And it was created to provide opportunities for directors to direct music videos. And then, so the music video component taught them how to conceptualize. Then we moved them to commercials, which taught them how to deal with talent and to direct talent, and then moving them on to film and television. So it was a very, you know, that was the goal of Strange Fruit. So while we were doing that, we started off doing music videos, as I said, and then we got our opportunity to make our first movie within the first year. And so that's when I started coming out to Hollywood and making movies and television. So I think the lesson to be learned from being an entrepreneur, a Black woman entrepreneur in a creative space, um, is to be the my superpower at that point was naivete, right? So it's and so now as I've been in this business for 20 plus years, I often wish that I can go back and capture that. So at some point your naivete should kind of turn into a just a boldness, right? So naivete to boldness. So that's what I would take from being an entrepreneur and being a risk taker. From there, I became, what was next? So from there, I became, I guess, the head of original programming at TV1, which is a cable network housed in the Washington, D.C. area, but it's a multinational television network. And the one thing that I would say from that experience is to bring your whole self to the job and to also be unapologetic about what you know and what your experiences are, because as women sometimes um, we tend to dim our own light, and you know, so that we can make other people feel comfortable. But I don't believe that it is necessarily your job to make people feel comfortable. It is your job to bring people along. So I would say that would be my biggest lesson from there, is to bring your whole self and to be comfortable with who you are and be unapologetic about it. um, I was recruited from TV1 to come back to LA, and I moved back to LA a few years ago to be to run a division of Lionsgate, which was called Codeblack, and I was hired to put Codeblack in the original movie business because they had been doing acquisitions primarily at the time. And at TV1, I put the network in the original made for TV movie business. So they saw that I'd made like 40 plus movies in 4 years. So Lionsgate wanted to up the original movie volume at Lionsgate. And within, I would say, 3 or 4 months, it was very clear that the I'm trying to be very politically correct here, that the Lionsgate team did not support the business model that I was hired to run. So for whatever reason, I did not get any traction there. And within 7 or 8 months, the business unit was shuttered. So from the lesson there, I believe, is when you're moving from one thing to the next, just make sure that you ask as many questions as you can. And when you're entering into a new relationship, they're not just interviewing you to see if they want to hire you. You need to interview them to make sure that that's a good place for you. And I think that had I looked at the board, I would have seen, oh, there's no diversity on this board. They fixed that since. That's the only reason why I could talk about it. They fixed it since, but there was no people of color on their board. Then you look at the senior leadership team, and it was like, the rankings were really thin there too. And then you look at the fact that when the Codeblack situation was over, and you look at all of the senior level executives that left with the shuttering of that, and it left a big empty hole there. Again, like I said earlier, what you set your intention to. So there was clearly not an intention to make sure that every business unit at the company had diversity. I'm sharing all this because I know that they're fixing it. I know that the leadership has a desire to fix it, and they're actually doing it. I've seen some steps in that direction. But again, the lesson is, make sure that when you're going from one thing to the next, that you know that you're valuable, and you're interviewing them also to make sure that you're a good fit for them, right? Or they're a good fit for you, I should say. And so now, from there, I went on to consulting with Ava DuVernay and Array Filmworks, and I didn't think I had as much to learn as I thought by doing that consulting gig. But when I tell you that short stint, I learned so much, and it was really about excellence, right? It was about, do not take shorts. Just, I don't care if you have to stay up all night. I don't care if you have to spend an extra, some extra money. I don't care if you have to bring some extra people in. You have to be relentless about excellence when your name is on something, right? And that's what I learned from Ava, because she is just brilliant at setting her intention on being excellent at everything that she does. And you can see by her track record, it's obviously working, right? And so now that I'm at Wayfair, I combine all of those things, the lessons from being an entrepreneur, the lessons that I learned about being your authentic and whole self, and not being apologetic about what you know from TV One. And then I brought all of the stuff that I learned about excellence from Ava. And then I brought all of the stuff that I've learned from all of my experiences to the table at Wayfair. And so that's why I was able to be really clear about, I want to be a chief elevation officer as opposed to an executive officer. So I hope I answered your question in a roundabout way, but that's what it is.
Oh, I hope our students are taking notes. Thank you, D'Angela. I want to take your work with Wayfair a little further. Can you tell us more? I mean, it's a really unique company, right? There's a social justice component. Can you tell us more about that, what you produce, you work with?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been there just over a year and a half. And some of the things that we've done that I'm most proud of is the fact that everything isn't just about the bottom line, the financial bottom line, right? So when we found out about a gentleman by the name of Jamel Roberson, who had been murdered in the Chicago area by a police officer, and it just didn't get the media attention that we felt that it did. We did a video, and we serviced it to, nationally, so that people can hear more about the Jamel Roberson case. That's one thing. I just wrapped on, and it just premiered this week, Black Women Own the Conversation, where we talked about what the Black women's agenda is going into this election. We've also done things. We did the art of shaving, because we're a branded content social impact production company. So what that means is we not only represent the brands, but we also try to make sure that there is an impactful component where we're doing something to better the world. So we did a project for the art of shaving, which is really cool because we asked men, what do they see when they look in the mirror? You know, we don't think about that for men. And so some of the men really demonstrated their vulnerability and talked about, well, I see strength, or I see hope, or you may not see strength. You may see love, or you may not. Whatever the moniker was that the male selected, that's what we showed, and it was a fabulous project. Let's see, one of the other things, we do so much. So Clouds was just released on Disney Plus, the movie, that was based off of My Last Days. So that's our sister company, Wayfarer Studios. Amazing project. So check it out on Disney Plus. Let's see. Oh, I know. Quicken Rocket Mortgage. You won't think that Quicken Rocket Mortgage had anything to do with homelessness. So Quicken Rocket Mortgage campaign that we did, and you probably saw it all throughout the NBA finals, but they selected cities where they identified areas where they wanted to eradicate homelessness amongst veterans. And so we told those stories too in an impactful way. So yeah, we always ask the question why. We don't just do any content. The question has to have a really strong why behind it.
Great. Yeah, I love your work, obviously.
Yeah, thank you.
Follow all of it.
So we have a question before we get too far away from your account of your progress and how you ended up where you are. One of our audience members asks, and you can see it too, but I'll just read it so everyone else can hear it. During your time as an attorney, were you in entertainment law, or did you study it in school? This is something I'm very interested in pursuing, and so I'd love to hear about your experiences.
Okay. So no, when I practiced law, I primarily worked in the labor and employment defense group, and I did a little litigation as well. So as you know, when you first become an attorney in a big law firm, I'm sure you've probably heard all of this in movies and television shows, or you may have family members, but when you start off at a really large law firm, the associates stay in the library quite a bit. So you're doing research, you're doing discovery, you're writing briefs, you're writing legal memorandums, you're doing all sorts of things like that. So I knew that I didn't want to do that. So that's why I elected to do labor and employment defense, because it did give me the opportunity to do administrative hearings on my own, whether they be EEOC hearings or the National Labor Relations Board, things like that. So I was able to get out of the library and actually get some hands-on experience. Now, I just hated it. I just did not, my creative soul was dying in that role. I found myself reading fiction books quite a bit while I was practicing law, and should have been working, right? And so I stopped it. I just stopped it. No entertainment practice at all. I moved from Pittsburgh, where I was practicing law, to Atlanta, thinking that, oh, I'll go to Atlanta and become an entertainment lawyer, but I couldn't find a job there. So within 6 months, I met some people and we formed the production company together. But I just, I am a really strong believer in if something's not working for you, you have to change it. You're the only person that can change it, So that's what.
Yeah, man. It's a real good lesson. One of the things that, when I was younger, I didn't realize, and I talk about with our students, is that you can think you're going to do something and then you get in there and you don't like it, but there's the skills you learn, they transfer, right? Right. So here's a question I always have. People, especially when people are talking about leadership, because there's stories they tell in response to a question like this, and you'll just fix my question in your head, is about learning through failure. And I think, our students are obviously very nervous about failure, and then it can freeze you up. It's frozen me up in my life, obviously. So I'm wondering if there's a project in your mind that stands out where you were really working on it, you're really committed to it, and it didn't work out, right? But you learned something really important from it.
I mean, I think the Lionsgate position, I think I felt a huge failure for me, because I've never failed at anything, really. You know, when I didn't want to practice law, I mean, I started a company, and within 6 months we were shooting music videos, right? To the point where we worked with, I'm sure you know some of these names, we worked with Nas, 6 Feet, I'm sorry, 3 6 Mafia, Wu-Tang, Calvin Richardson. We did a commercial for TLC. We did Outcast videos. So I didn't fail there. Then we started making movies, and they just kept coming and coming and coming. And then we moved on to television when the DVD business fell out. So I would say my career is marked by pivots more, and sometimes the pivots are caused by failures or perceived failures, but they're always pivots for your good. But again, the Lionsgate situation was very challenging for me because I could have stayed at TV1, right? And I moved back across the country and came here thinking, oh my goodness, now I can make movies with higher caliber talent. No disrespect to the talent that I worked with, but you know, just I would have had the opportunity to have more resources, more time, more support, a reasonable schedule. All of those things. I was so excited and so stoked to come back to LA and do that. And literally everywhere I turned, wall, wall, wall. So it really made me second guess who I was for a moment. I don't stay those places long. Like who wants to do that? I don't stay there long. It's just the way I'm built. So I said, this isn't working anymore. And I talked to Ava about it, and I said, you know, I'm not really doing much at Lionsgate. I can, you know, if you need some help with your, you know, launching of your thing, I'm here for you as your friend. I'll help you, right? So my offer and us having that conversation turned into the consulting gig. If I didn't feel, or if I didn't have the mindset to say, okay, to be honest about where things were, to say this isn't working and let me start figuring out what my pivot's going to be, I may not have had that opportunity. So that's how I did that's how I got the consulting gig with her. And then as I was working with her, the opportunity to become CEO of Wayfair manifested. But those things won't manifest if you're not looking for it, right? And I don't believe, though, in the millennial mindset of you change a job every 1 to 2, 3 years. Like when I go somewhere, I plan to stay for a time, because it really does take about, I believe, 3 years to really like dig in and really make your mark on something. So I never go into anything thinking, oh, I'm just going to go there for 1 or 2 years, or I'm going to, you know, ever. But you also have to be honest with yourself as to where you are, when you are, and then you have to pivot. And you better pivot yourself before they pivot for you.
That's such good advice. And I love that critique of the millennial, like the idea that jobs are these interchangeable things. It's really about bringing yourself and everything you can to bear, and your time and energy and resources to make it better.
Hands down. Absolutely.
So getting back, shifting gears a little bit to the content, in the spirit that this is the Black Women in Hollywood series, and we've asked this question of all of the participants, which has been an incredible lineup. You know, you're the capstone speaker. Thank you, D'Angela. And I'm wondering, we've seen a lot of shifts in terms of how Black women are showing up in Hollywood, right? Both in terms of the amount of representation and the quality of representation. And I'm hoping you can speak to that. In what ways have things gotten better? In what ways have things not gotten better? And what work remains to be done?
Well, you know, I'm jaded. I have to be honest. I'm a little jaded because I believe that there are moments in time, and I think we're just in one of those moments where it happened. Let me back up. I just shared this story with my son, I think the other day. And I said, it's really shameful that it took the murder of George Floyd on camera, combined with the pandemic, combined with the political chaos that we're going through right now. and it formed a perfect storm for the world. And you know what, and you can even go back as far as Me Too, right? But it took like this perfect storm for people to really see the inequalities that happen in this world. And I am hoping that when people get back to work and things just start going faster and moving back, and we start, getting back into the real world, that the empathy that they have based upon that perfect storm actually continues. So I'm seeing a lot of people getting elevated and getting these positions and things like that. Those people were qualified last year. They didn't just become qualified this year. Those people were qualified last year and the year before and the year before that. So what I am hopeful for, and I would really like to see happen is, it's not about diversity and inclusion and just bringing someone in. You actually have to make sure they're okay, because it's really lonely in those senior level positions. So you have to make sure, and I think I shared this with you before, I'm not sure, but I'll do it again for the benefit of this audience. A wonderful D&I practitioner named DuVernay Myers, I believe is her name, and she's at the head of Netflix diversity. And I don't even know her, but I quote her all the time. I would love to meet her. But she says, like, diversity is being invited to the party, and inclusion is being asked to dance. I add that if you play the music I like, then maybe I belong. I want to belong. And I think that all of the opportunities that are coming about now, even at these senior level positions and board positions, you still have work to do once they get in there. And you have to make people feel comfortable and not assume that they speak the same language that you do, or that they are affected in the same ways that you are by things that happen. So I think that if we can just focus on belonging and focus on making sure, you know, making sure that I feel safe and brave enough to be myself at the table when I'm invited to be at the table, whether I have to pull up my own chair or not. It needs to be a safe space and a brave space. And I think that's what comes about with belonging.
Yeah, that's so powerful. Thank you. Again, I hope our students are taking notes. We also have a number of people who are not current students, and some of them have given us fantastic questions for you. The first, and I won't name this person just in case I won't name this person for obvious reasons after I ask the question. They asked, did you pull from savings to get Strange Fruit going? I'm a miserable lawyer pursuing my passions in fashion, pairing, and writing, but those things cost, so I don't want to quit without money to fund those projects.
That is an amazing question. I mean, it is just a fantastic question. The reality is that I was married at the time, and my ex-husband was a professional athlete. And so he did give me a little startup capital. But if I look back at it, I was so foolish with what I did with that startup capital that I actually I probably could have launched without it, because my naivete and just being young and silly, spent the money on an office. Who does that anymore? Like, so the world has changed, right? The world has completely changed. So I remember when I was going out looking for music video business, I would get Vibe magazine. I'm about to date myself. Vibe magazine, the Source magazine, and I would look through the magazine and see who was coming out with new music. And I would call that label and I would say, hey, are you guys going to do a music video for that? And they would say, yes. I said, well, can you send us the track? They would send us the track, and we would write to the track, write a creative treatment for that music video. And we were getting work. So there were, the barriers to entry at that time was, can you prove that you can do the work by having a reel? So we had directors who had reels. And do you have insurance? Those were really the barriers to entry. can you do it? Do you have production insurance? So you did have to have a little money, but you could have done that with a couple of $1,000s, not significant amounts of money. But today you have the internet, right? We can even email. Did we even have email? I'm so old, I don't remember. But we would cold call people. And so now the blessing is that you can start a business without a lot of money, and because of the virtual nature of the world, and it's getting proven every day. The pandemic is pushing us into to our rethinking that you don't need office space. Really, all you need is a computer and an imagination at this point.
And a good Wi-Fi connection. D'Angela, Jennifer is asking, can you repeat that beautiful statement about inclusiveness being invited to the party?
Oh, okay. No, diversity is being invited to the party. Inclusion is being asked to dance or getting your dance card filled. And I may not want to dance to your music. So I think belonging is knowing that I may want to hear that particular song, and that you're actually going to play that song and not be like, oh, we have to play that song for her. So it's actually making me feel like my presence is valued to the point where you will play a song that I want to dance to.
Okay. Another question. In terms of your most fantastical imagination, what dream projects, seemingly impossible or radical, would you engage in, assuming all resources needed manifested?
Oh my. My, oh my, oh my, oh my. Okay, so there's an author that I am just fascinated by, and her name is Isabel Wilkerson, I believe that's her name. She wrote The Warmth of Other Suns, which talks about the Great Migration, and she also wrote Caste. These are must reads for every American, everyone. It should just be required reading for everyone. The Warmth of Other Suns, Shonda Rhimes has the rights to, and Caste, Ava DuVernay has the rights to. I am infatuated with both of those books and would love to be a part of either one of those, because I think they're just, I mean, I don't think I've read anything better written than those two books. I mean, the writer is just, she's just amazing.
Okay, so we're recording this. We should along to Shonda Rhimes, Ava DuVernay.
Yeah.
Another question from a student. This is more nuts and bolts about your work in the corporate world. You talk about this idea of elevation and the importance of giving your employees autonomy. Have you ever thought about turning your company into a co-op where your workers have direct economic and political influence in a democratic way? In other words, do you think corporate hierarchy is the most effective way to empower and elevate?
Oh my God, what a great question. So I've actually been thinking about that quite a bit. And I remember growing up and hearing about, there's a rental car company. I don't know if it's Enterprise or Avis or one of those rental car companies that's owned by their employees. So I've actually really been thinking about, I can't do it at Wayfair because I don't own Wayfair, I'm an employee. But if I ever were in a position to start a company again, that is exactly the way I would do it. I would make sure that the employees have a stake in it, for sure. I don't think they do that a lot, nearly enough in the creative business.
It's interesting, right? Because there's the creative, and Hollywood likes to claim it's very liberal and in so many ways, but it looks, the hiring practices up until recently look like the 1950s. Actually, I think they still sort of do in the practice of the business side of things. Another question, with regard to your passion projects, can you not just reach out to Shonda and Anna, Ava, I think, and ask them to join, or ask to join them, sorry?
Well, actually, both of them are at Netflix. They're already set up. They already have the resources to do that. Both of them already have their respective staffs. So yeah, and I work for a company, so it will be a little challenging. It's not that simple. I wish it were.
I wish it were as well on both those projects. What are you watching? What are you recommending? What is great in terms of representation in Hollywood right now?
I am going through Lovecraft Country withdrawal
No.
right now. I am. I mean, I'm just like, what am I going to do this Sunday? I have no idea. I am. So my appetite for content is very wide. I am going through The Boys withdrawal right now. I just finished the second season of that. I went to a screening of a remarkable movie by my dear friend Regina King. Everyone needs to go and see One Night in Miami. And it tells the story of Sam Cooke, Malcolm X, Jim Brown, and Malcolm X, Jim Brown, and Muhammad Ali. And let me tell you, it is just phenomenal. I predict, you heard it here, probably second. I predict Oscars definitely for Leslie Odom playing Sam Cooke. He was remarkable. And I don't know the gentleman's name, but the one that played Malcolm X was amazing. And I'm pretty sure that Regina will get a nod as well. So it just renewed my faith in filmmaking, and it just nourished my soul, and everyone should see it.
Fabulous. So I've got a question. So we have all these young people, many of whom are interested in getting into entertainment and media for social impact. Yeah. Well, here it is. It's essentially the same question. So I'm gonna build my question to Nick Graves' question. He asks, what advice do you have for your college self not knowing what path you're interested in? And let me just add something here, which would be when you're in a position to hire and help people rise up and realize their dreams, right? This is one of what you love to do. What are you looking for when they come to you, right? So you're going to hire somebody and there's all these great people with all these skills. What are you looking for in them to show you so you feel like, you're going to take a chance on them?
Yeah. I typically, I go by references quite a bit. I am a terrible, terrible hiring manager when it comes to looking at the paper and to some degree interviewing to decide whether the person is right. So I really do like to speak to people or hire people who have impeccable references. And I don't mean impeccable like the person doesn't do anything wrong. I mean impeccable references to the extent that the person that's providing the reference actually knows the strengths and weaknesses of the person that can help me make that person even more successful when they come to me. I'm just, I don't know, I'm just not good at, and one of the things about being a leader is to know what you're not good at and get people around you who can make up for your shortcomings.
So what do they have to hear? Like when you're talking to someone who's hired them before and worked with them, what are you listening for? So you're right.
I want to know passion. I want to know, I want to know that someone is going to be able to start something and finish something. And I want to know that they're going to be thoughtful about it. I want to know that they're not going to be able to afraid to raise their hand to say when they don't know something. Right? Like I really like the worst thing in the world is for someone to keep going, keep going, keep going. And they know they don't know what they're doing, but they're afraid to raise their hand because I don't create an environment of fear. Right. So if if I'm not creating an environment of fear, you have to, I don't want to say that because that's not fair. I don't create an environment of fear. I would be hopeful that someone would see that and would know that it's okay to say when they don't know something, because I'm certainly going to say, like I may make a decision and one of my direct reports or someone on their team will come to me and say, well, why did you make that decision? Because here are the ramifications as I see them. I'm okay in my leadership where I'm going to say, you know what, that's a good point. Let's undo it. I'm not, so bent on being right to the demise of the project or to the demise of my team. So I don't know. I think um, I don't like to see job hoppers. I really don't. I don't like to see people going from like, and I know that's old school. Believe me, I know. I have a 21-year-old son. I know. And I know that he's not going to stay anywhere he doesn't want to. I get that. But I don't, like 1 year here, 1 year there, 1 year here, 1 year. I like for people to be able to demonstrate that they have some stick to itness. Um, so I also like to see, I'm not big on, oh, just because this person went to a certain school, I'm not a school snob at all. I'm not a GPA snob at all. I believe that if, oh, you know what I do hate? I hate embellishment in resumes. I hate when people are like entry level and they say, I oversaw, or I um, ushered, or I shepherded, or those words where you pull out the dictionary and or the and look at synonyms and start adding stuff, and you weren't empowered to do all that stuff. Now stop it. So I don't like that. I do like, I supported this person in this, or, that just be honest too, be honest on your resume. And be honest in, and I also don't like, I like positive people, really, really, really positive people. The world is, there's enough negativity. You certainly don't, I don't want to work with you if you're negative. That's, that's it.
Oh, I couldn't echo that more. I look at it,
That's right.
so Malik, it's like, right. I mean, it's easy to be negative. It's one thing to be critical. It's quite another to be negative, right? Like,
Different
find the problems and still being like, we're going to push through it and make this work. Yeah.
things.
And not in some naive way, although as you pointed out, naivete can be a superpower.
I know, right? I wish I can go back and take a pill. I mean, like literally, we were doing things, with pyrotechnics, and did you have the right insurance? Like just all sorts of craziness, but things that just got done. Like we did a video in 3D. I mean, it was just amazing. It was an amazing time. And then now it's kind of like, just knowing too much. Sometimes knowing too much can be a detriment. That's why I like to keep young people around me.
Mhm. It's true, right? Like not knowing where the barriers are. You just push right through them sometimes, not even seeing them there.
So I screwed up Nick Graves' question. I swallowed it into mine. So maybe you can answer Nick's question about what you would, what advice do you have for your college self not knowing the path you're interested in?
Well, I told you guys that I went to law school, but I didn't tell you why I went to why I went to law school. I went to law school because I literally sent out 3 resumes. I sent out a resume to Susan Taylor at Essence Magazine, Kathy Hughes, who owned Radio One, and I think Oprah Winfrey. So for OWN, no, OWN didn't exist at the time, for the Oprah Winfrey Show, and Harpo. I didn't plan, right? I didn't plan. I sent out 3 resumes, and I did not socialize my plans. I didn't try to reach other people that knew them. I was so naive, again, thinking that a cold letter would get me in there. And then when I didn't hear back, I was like, oh, I guess I'll go to law school. And that's what I did. But the law school thing, you can't go wrong with a law degree, unless you go into significant amounts of debt and you can't pay it back. But I use law every day. But I wish I had planned better for my post-college years, and I did not plan.
And how would you, if you had a time machine, what would that plan look like?
So interesting. I catered. I had a catering company in college. That's how I paid my way partially through school. And one of my biggest clients was Morehouse College School of Business, because Morgan Stanley or Chase or all of these banks and these big companies would come there and do informationals and recruit, and I was catering those events. I never thought like, oh, perhaps I should slip one of them my resume. I did not even take in I was so busy working, trying to pay my tuition and my rent and all that stuff, that I didn't even take the time to benefit from the resources that the school laid right in front of me. Spelman was no different. I mean, the schools are, the Spelman is the girls' school across the street from Morehouse, the boys' school. Spelman had the same, they had the same types of events. I just didn't partake. I just didn't. So I just wish that I wish I had planned. I wish I'd thought about it more. But I didn't. And what I would tell to myself then is, but you know what? There are no mistakes. That's also what I would tell myself. There are no mistakes. Because law school has really taught me how to think analytically. And in production, that is so necessary because you have these big complex things. And so when you're an attorney, you learn the elements of a crime and you learn the elements of a defense. So I can always see both sides of everything. And a lot of people can't do that. They're just singularly focused. That's why
You're fine.
All right.
Okay,
You're fine.
I think the phone rang. Sorry about that. So I lost track of what I was saying, but I think I lost track of what I'm saying.
So you're saying you could see the defense and the crime.
Right. So I'll start over. So as an attorney, having been trained as an attorney, I can definitely see the elements of a crime, but I can also see the elements of a defense. So based upon that, it's very easy for me to see both sides of something and accept them without being negative or without being judgmental or without, being anything like that. So it has been extremely helpful. So I would also say to myself, don't beat yourself up because there are no mistakes. I know it sounds really cliche, but all things work together for good.
Well, along those lines. Oh, sorry.
That's biblical also.
And it's worked really well for you, right? You've held these remarkable leadership positions to the point where some of the biggest leadership what some people would consider the pinnacle of their career, it's not even worth putting on your resume, right? Because it's too long. And I will say that because that happened with your resume. And Suli asks, hi, D'Angela, where would you say your leadership spark began? What has been the best and most challenging experience you've had in the entertainment industry?
I don't know where it began, but I just love leaders. One summer I decided I was just going to spend, my spare time studying them. And I studied, like I read about Oprah, I read about Barry Diller, Ted Turner. I just have an infatuation with people who are able to scale up and make things happen. And so I haven't gotten there yet. I consider myself a baby leader because I still have so much more that I want to accomplish and plan to accomplish. Yeah, I think that's it.
Great.
So Thomas Leavitt says or asks,
Mm-hmm.
What do you do at Wayfair that you think is different from the rest of the industry? What do you think makes your company a better, more equitable place than the others? And he sympathizes with your hiring difficulty. He says he's not that great at it himself.
Well, I think the magnificent thing about Wayfair is the fact that, social impact has become faddish. I would say it's become like some buzzwords, especially in entertainment. But the great thing about Wayfair is that it literally has a track record of doing this for the past 7 years. So they're not new to it. So that's what really attracted me to the company. And some of the things that a lot of people don't know about that we do, we also have a foundation where we support our unhoused neighbors, which is why the Quicken Rocket Mortgage campaign was so important to us. But we feed vegan meals to our unhoused neighbors at Skid Row every Friday, about 250 meals. We pass out hand sanitizers. We pass out the face shields and masks. And when it's really hot, we provide popsicles and, things like that. So people are really, really, really excited about that. So we just do the work. That's what's really, what's really fantastic about Wayfair. We do the work, and it's been happening for some time now. And when I started at Wayfair, I created what I call a 4-H system. And it's, are you honorable? Do you have humility? Are you hungry? And do you do everything with heart? So everything that we do, we look at it through the lens of the 4-H's.
What were those again?
Honor, humility, hunger, and heart.
Get
And
it?
all four. It's you can have two and you'll be a little jacked up. But you need all four. You can be hungry and not have humility, and you're at work being a little tsunami. Right? So you need to be honorable in everything that you do.
Right on. That's amazing. I'm gonna get that tattooed on me somewhere. That's incredible. So here's Nick Graves, has a follow-up here. How do you feel as a Black person? How do you feel there it is, as a Black person found your way through Hollywood? Do you feel your experience at Lionsgate was the way it was because of your Blackness?
I don't think I have answers to either one of those questions, possibly, because I don't ever wake up thinking I'm Black. I don't. I do not wake up thinking like Black is a burden, or I can't do something because I'm Black, or I've gotten something because I'm Black, or anything like that. I am really good at what I do. And I just do it. I just do it. And I'm sure, I am quite sure that there are opportunities that may not have come my way because of my Blackness, and because I've only done Black content, I can say. So one of the attractions to leaving TV1 and coming to Lionsgate in the first place was so that I can be in a building or in a room or in a situation where I don't have to only do or be exposed to Black content. So my entire career is marked by Black content. Meaning, I started off, I was doing music videos. Those were Black music videos, period, R&B and hip hop. Then when I started doing movies, the cast were Black. The directors were Black, the producers were Black, half the crew was Black. Then when I started doing, when I had an overall deal at BET, that's a Black Entertainment Network. I won an NAACP Image Award, which is for Black content. I went on to be the head of programming at a Black network. So Blackness is just who I am, some of the content that I've done. And I am very sure that if you lined up my track record with someone else and you took out all, and I put, how can I say this? And my resume showed all of the things that I've accomplished without Black on it, I can top pretty much any executive in town. Just by virtue of having launched a daily news program, doing 40 movies in 4 years, where the average budget was $641,000, right? I mean, literally putting on, doing 5 NAACP Image Awards, doing 2 shows at the White House when President Obama was there, the tribute shows on PBS, having done a co-production with CNN with Senator Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders, doing another town hall with Secretary Clinton in South Carolina. Like 2 town halls for a major presidential election, 5 NAACP Image Awards, with Anthony Anderson as a host, with a multi-year deal with Anthony Anderson of Blackish as a host. And then moving on to doing all of those movies. Like I've given, like there's some actors that I gave them their first opportunity to act, or directors their first opportunity to direct. I mean, Caroline and I were talking about your panelist from yesterday, Christine Swanson. Christine Swanson, I had met her years ago at the American Black Film Festival. I'd heard of her, rather. I don't even know if we met. But I had known she had done this faith-based movie years ago. And when I became head of programming at TV1 and wanted to get in the movie business, I always wanted to do modern day tellings of biblical stories. So I said, oh, I know, I remember this girl a young lady, who had done this movie years ago that won the American Black Film Festival. So I tracked her down, and she did 4 movies, and which led her to get the Lifetime movie, The Clark Sisters, which, you know, there was a lot of Emmy buzz around it. So if you put my track record up to anyone, a lot of people's that are like actually getting high profile, high paying, high caliber jobs, my resume could take them out. But guess why I'm not in the room, or why I'm not even in the consideration set? Because a lot of people in Hollywood don't respect that it was done at a TV One, or they don't respect that it was done at a Black entertainment television, or so even though I feel like I don't wake up with that burden, I know it exists, right? I know I'm not naive to think that that my Blackness didn't have anything to do with anything. But I do want to go back to the Lionsgate question. No, I don't think it was because of my Blackness. I think it's because there was a change in leadership, and it's actually, you know, hopefully it'll be good in the long run. But what happened there is a situation where there was a change in leadership, and the leadership decided that diversity should be a part of the overall vision and not just done by a singular department, right? So, you know, I'll leave it there.
Well, we are almost out of time. I hope you'll just, you know, in 60 seconds or however long you want to take, and give some advice for folks who want to step in, who want to follow in your footsteps. Like, give some words of inspiration and guidance for our students.
Sure. One of the things that I love Steve Jobs too, by the way, in terms of leadership, where you can learn a lot of what to do well and what not to do. But he says that you really don't know, you can't connect the dots until you're looking back. So the dots of your career to know, like he tells a story about, I know you said 60 seconds, so let me just make this fast.
or three minutes, however long.
Take as much time as you want.
This is good stuff. I live by this. He talks about like connecting the dots, and he uses an example of how he audited a class with calligraphy when he was in college, and such that when they were creating word processing, he had multiple fonts, right? He didn't know that the fact that he, you know, audited a calligraphy class would end up informing how we compute today and we do word processing today. So my point in sharing that story is, you know, there's no one way, and you never know what's happening or why something is happening at the time, but just know that the dots will connect. And so when something knocks you down, it's like, okay, that was a dot. It'll, you know, I'll understand this dot later. So don't relish in it. Just know that it is a dot to lead to something else and to form a beautiful picture later on. So that would be my advice to everyone, to just, you know, it's just a dot.
Wonderful. That's yeah. I think as we get older, we realize, right, that this is always true. If everyone knew how people in successful positions got there, they'd be shocked.
Right. There's no blueprint for people's journeys. There's no blueprint at all. You just have to, you know, run your race. That racehorses wear glasses and blinders for a reason, because when you look over, you'll get tripped up. Run your race. Run your race.
Run your race. I love it. And the proper response to that is Ajasana saying, "You rock, thanks." I agree with that. So we've reached the end of our time, unfortunately, but thank you so much for this incredible hour. You know, time is precious, and we really appreciate you spending the time with us and sharing your wisdom and your life lessons. They're sending, I'm just going to put them up so you can see them. They're, you know, sending you thanks. We'll continue with The Matrix, but we're moving into a new series, a California immigration series. But what an amazing way to end the Black Women in Hollywood series for this fall. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, D'Angela. Amazing.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.